on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 30th of April 2024. Wave of support. India to grant entire estimated cost for renovation of the Lanka port. Sri Lanka-Indonesia trade agreement talks advance to the second round. The hammer and sickle. 40 rallies and marches planned island-wide as Sri Lanka prepares to celebrate May Day. 14 rallies to be held in Colombo. Tall tales. No evidence to back up Umayyad project's last. Minister of Power and Energy reveals possibility of electricity tariff reduction next month. Up again. Sri Lanka's CCPI-based inflation increases to 1.5% in April.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Singh joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now taking you straight to your top story tonight. During its meeting yesterday, the Cabinet of Ministers granted approval for the President's proposal to accept the Indian government's grant of the entire estimated cost for the renovation of the Lanka port. India announced its intention to fund the $61.5 million estimated cost of the project earlier in the year. The President also informed the Cabinet on the progress of the ongoing negotiations pertaining to the preferential trade agreement between Sri Lanka and Indonesia and highlighted that the second meeting of the negotiation committee will take place in Colombo on the 19th and the 20th of June.
During yesterday's meeting of the Cabinet of Ministers, President Ranil Wickremesinghe informed the Cabinet on the progress of the ongoing negotiations pertaining to the preferential trade agreement between Indonesia and Sri Lanka. The President submitted that official discussions were held between the State Minister for Foreign Affairs, Taraka Balasuriya, and the Indonesian Deputy Minister of Trade on the 14th of March, while the first meeting of the Trade Negotiations Committee was held online on the 3rd and 4th of April. The second meeting of the committee has been slated to be held on the 19th and 20th of June in Colombo. The ministerial subcommittee headed by the Prime Minister appointed in 2023 to study the proposal seeking to declare the Mirisa Marine Zone as a wildlife sanctuary submitted recommendations aimed at a five-fold increase in the tourism economy of the southern province by turning the zone into a blue flag coastal zone and a marine wildlife sanctuary conforming to international standards. The Cabinet granted approval for the proposal submitted by the Prime Minister to implement the subcommittee's recommendations through the relevant ministries and institutions. The Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal submitted by the President in his capacity as the Minister of Investment Promotion to award China Harbour Engineering Company Lanka Limited the releases and encouragements proposed by the acts recognised under Schedule 2 of the Colombo Port City Economic Commission. The company has been recognised as a secondary entrepreneurship with strategic importance as an establishment engaged in urban facilities monitoring related businesses to generate employment opportunities, sustainable development and settling residential community. In the meantime, Cabinet approval was granted to the proposal submitted by the President in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policy to accept the financial grant from the Government of India for the entire estimated cost of the renovation of the Lanka port. The project was originally greenlit in 2017 off the back of Indian loans granted for the purpose but was suspended in 2019 due to the estimated cost of the project exceeding the loan amount. Due to the importance of the project, discussions recommenced with India on the possibility of completing the project as a public-private partnership. Subsequently, the Indian government agreed to grant the entire estimated cost of the project, which was announced at $61.5 million earlier this month. Cabinet approval was also granted to the joint resolution submitted by the President and the Minister of Justice, Prison Affairs and Constitutional Reforms, Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, to amend both the Penal Code and the Criminal Procedure Code to include provisions for the banning of all forms of corporal punishment across all sectors of the country.
The
relevant legislations will be amended in such a manner that any adult, parent or teacher who inflicts corporal punishment on a child will face criminal liabilities. The cabinet granted approval to amend these pieces of legislation in order to bring the country's children's rights up to internationally accepted standards.
මේ පනත් සංශෝධනය කළ යුතු වෙන බවට ඉදිරිපත් කළ කැබිනට් පත්‍රිකාවට කැබිනට් අනුමැතිය ලැබුණා.
ජීවිතේ හැම තැනකදීම ස්මාර්ට් වෙන්න පොලිය විතරක් ගෙවාගෙන යන්න CDB Smart Draft.
The High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, met the Minister of Power and Energy, Kanchana Wijesekara, and held discussions on mutually beneficial projects in the power and energy sectors of the country. On the 27th of April, the Indian High Commissioner released a message on the social media platform X that discussions about power and energy projects will benefit both Sri Lanka and India. Today, Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara, drawing attention to the same meeting between him and the top Indian diplomat in Sri Lanka, stated that they discussed matters pertaining to the power grid interconnectivity, oil pipeline connectivity, LNG partnerships, the Sampur Solar Power Park, and other ongoing energy sector partnerships. Now, meanwhile, State Minister of Power and Energy Indika Anuruddha quelled all recent allegations that the Uma Oya Multipurpose Development Project was behind the recent landslides in the Badulla area. While asserting that no conclusive evidence has been elicited to suggest that the Uma Oya project caused the landslides, the minister pointed to the recent uptick in inclement weather as the most probable culprit. He also said the general public can expect a possible reduction in the electricity tariffs within the coming month as the project seeks to drastically draw down the country's dependence on the thermal energy sector, dependence of thermal energy.
As soon as the Umaya project was vested in the public, some people pointed to minor cascades and started to spread rumors around that the Umaya project has increased the risk of landslides in the area. However, the landslides which occurred were a result of the recent inclement weather. They have caused unnecessary panic. The NBRO has already identified some areas in the hills which are prone to landslides. During high-risk times, the NBRO will not let anyone to take up residence in those areas, while residents already living in such areas will be evacuated. The government will take necessary measures to address the situation through the Ministry of Disaster Management. There has been no conclusive evidence adduced so far to suggest that the Uma Oya project caused the landslide. They seek to ridicule the Uma Oya project when the country starts to experience its benefits. If they hadn't sabotaged that project, which could have generated hundreds of millions of rupees over 9 years, the country would probably have those funds in its coffers by now.
එතකොට එහෙම බැලුවහම දැවැන්ත ලාභයක් මේ වෙනකොට විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලයට ලැබෙනව නේද? මේ සහනය කවදද ජනතාවට ලබා දෙන්නේ?
දැන් ලබන මාසේ
There is an electricity tariff revision due next month. We will present a report to the Public Utilities Commission containing the data and information pertaining to the month of May. This project complements the generation of power through renewable sources, particularly with regard to solar power projects. Since the electricity generated through the day will be stored and added to the grid at night, we can save the stocks of fuel needed to generate 120 megawatts of electricity. That financial benefit can be passed on to the general public. We believe that a substantial reduction in the electricity tariffs will be possible in May.
Now, an interim stay order was issued on the President and the Constitutional Council by the Supreme Court, preventing them from nominating judges to the Supreme Court except as Chief Justice. The Supreme Court issued this interim order while allowing the hearing of a petition submitted by a lawyer against the decision taken by the Constitutional Council to reject the nomination submitted by the President of the appointment of the incumbent President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Nishanka Bandula Karunaratne, as a Supreme Court Justice. The hearing of the petition was fixed for the 4th of October this year. Now today, former Minister of the Podujana Peramuna and former Minister and Parliamentarian of the Podujana Peramuna, Mahindananda Alutgamage, was acquitted of the charge of money laundering filed against him at the Colombo High Court in 2017. During his term as a minister, the Attorney General had filed the case against Alutgamage for allegedly purchasing a house worth 27 million rupees at Kinsey Road, Colombo 7, over a complaint that he had allegedly purchased the properties through illegally acquired money for committing a predicate offence coming under the Bribery Act. When the matter was taken up before the Colombo High Court today, Judge Navaratna Marasinghe held that the prosecution has failed to prove the accused's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, prompting the acquittal. The case was filed in 2017 by the then Attorney General under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now, commemorating the struggles of the working class, all major political parties have decked up Colombo and other major cities around the island to celebrate the International Labour Day, also dubbed the May Day, tomorrow. In view of the May Day, 40 rallies and parades are expected to take place across the island, with 14 rallies scheduled to be held in Colombo alone. Taking note of the situation, the Sri Lanka police announced that a special traffic plan will be implemented in Colombo tomorrow. Mainstream political parties were seen gearing up today for the May Day celebrations tomorrow, with the latest reports estimating around 40 rallies and marches planned island-wide. 14 of those 40 rallies are scheduled to take place in Colombo. Accordingly, several parties, including the United National Party, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, the Samagi Jana Balawega and the National People's Power, will hold their May Day rallies in Colombo. President Ranil Wickremesinghe's United National Party is scheduled to hold its rally at the PD Sirisena ground in Colombo tomorrow.
With an expected participation of over 100,000 people, we hope this will be the largest May Day rally.
Accepting the invitation extended by the Ceylon Workers' Congress, President Ranil Wickremesinghe is slated to participate in the May Day rally organised by the Ceylon Workers' Congress at the Kottagala Public Grounds at 10 a.m. tomorrow.
All plantation communities will be able to learn something tomorrow. Some good decisions will also be taken at the rally. I invite everyone to join us tomorrow.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, meanwhile, plans to hold its May Day rally at the Campbell Park grounds in Boralla.
We will not reveal how many people we expect at our rally tomorrow. We kept our word when we said we will fill up the goal face green. I firmly believe that most SLPP parliamentarians will join the May Day rally tomorrow.
However, the UNP and the SLPP have publicly stated that they will not hold the customary May Day march tomorrow. The May Day rally of the main opposition party, the Samagi Jana Balawega, will also be held tomorrow at the Chatham Street in Colombo under the patronage of opposition leader Sajid Premadasa.
We will hold a successful rally and march tomorrow with the participation of over 130,000 people. We wanted to have our rally at Town Hall. However, they gave away that spot to the JVP, disregarding our request. These are agreements that the JVP has with the President Ranil Wickremesinghe and the government.
In addition, the National People's Power will hold their May Day rally at the Lipton Circus in Colombo. Simultaneously, the National People's Power has also organised rallies in Jaffna, Anuradhapura and the Matra districts.
The NPP May Day rally will garner the participation of over 500,000 people belonging to various civil society organizations and trade unions. Accordingly, the NPP May Day rally will become the national rally of the country.
In the meantime, the May Day rally organised by former President Maithripala Sirisena's faction of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party is slated to take place at the Gampa Municipal Council grounds. Considering the tension simmering between the two factions of the SLFP, MP Nimal Siripala de Silva's faction of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party made public remarks on former President Maithripala Sirisena's May Day rally to be held tomorrow.
An interim injunction was issued by the court to Maithripala Sirisena, Vijayadasa Rajapaksa and Dushmantha Mitrapala. This rally has been organised against this backdrop. Our sources reveal that the rally, which is scheduled to be held in Gampaha tomorrow, is not merely a rally but a meeting organised by Vijayadasa Rajapaksa. The trade union affiliated with the SLFP will hold a rally at the Vihara Mahadevi Park tomorrow at 10 a.m. However, given that there is a matter pending before court concerning the party, we don't expect to hold a massive rally tomorrow.
In light of the special May Day celebrations and festivities organised tomorrow, the Sri Lanka police announced the implementation of a special traffic plan.
කොළඹ නගරයේ මේ ප්‍රදේශවලට පැමිණෙන්නට අපේක්ෂා කරන මහජනතාව අත්‍යවශ්‍ය කාරණයක් සඳහා හැර මේ ප්‍රදේශ
We request the public to refrain from travelling to the respective areas where May Day rallies and parades are scheduled to be held tomorrow unless it is absolutely necessary. Police officers are deployed in all these areas to ensure public safety. Measures were in place to deploy at least 7,500 police officers island-wide yesterday. However, that number was increased to 10,000 today, with several intelligence officers also being deployed in the interest of public security. In addition, steps have also been taken to deploy more traffic police officers island-wide. The use of drones will be prohibited at May Day rallies island-wide unless prior permission has been obtained. Legal action will be taken against those who use drones without prior permission.
Now let's see what politicians from across the political spectrum had to say just ahead of the highly anticipated May Day celebrations.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe revived this country without letting it collapse. As a result, all political parties are able to celebrate the May Day tomorrow after 5 years. President Wickremesinghe made all this possible by creating an environment and surrounding which is conducive for such celebrations.
Moving forward with President Ranil Wickremesinghe will bring no success. The people of this country yearn for a change in the system. However, is it possible for the incumbent president to bring about that change while working together with the same people who destroyed the system of this country? Therefore, none of our ministers will ever join President Wickremesinghe.
The president disburses funds to the SJB ministers from the presidential budget. What kind of an opposition is this? Even if everyone wants to unite in destroying the country, the NPP is ready to stand in support of the country and move forward while developing the country.
I urge the public to do a research on what contribution these leaders have made to the country. At least see if they have started a business or engaged in a job previously. No one can govern a country by boasting or bragging. It is difficult for people who behave as such to govern a country.
Now, the Court of Appeals deferred the decision on whether or not to entertain the writ petition filed by former Health Minister Keheliya Rambukwalla. The former minister had filed the petition challenging the order issued by the Maligakanda Magistrates Court to hold him in remand custody until the conclusion of the currently pending legal matter pertaining to the procurement of substandard vials of human immunoglobulin. The decision, which had been scheduled for today, was deferred to the 7th of May. Welcome back. Now in your business news, headline inflation as measured by the year-on-year change in the Colombo Consumer Price Index increased to 1.5% in April this year from 0.9% in the preceding month. The year-on-year inflation of the food group fell to 2.9% from 3.8% in March, while the year-on-year inflation in the non-food group increased to 0.9% from negative 0.5%. The contribution of inflation by food commodities on a year-on-year basis was 0.9%. The contribution of the non-food items was at 0.58%, mainly due to price increases in transport by 0.75%, alcoholic beverages, tobacco and narcotics by 0.52%. Meanwhile, prices decreased recorded in the groups of housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels by 1.59% and health by 0.04% from a year earlier. Now the government is considering loans of up to 1 million rupees to youth seeking to establish homestays for tourists. State Minister of Tourism Derana said the provision will depend on the availability of funds. Speaking during a media briefing at the President's office, the State Minister noted that the Ministry of Tourism is open to amending the government-mandated minimum room rates for hotels based on feedback from hoteliers.
What's the permanency of the minimum room rate?
What has happened is through the tourism ministry, they have brought this minimum room rate because of the situation in the country. There are some places that they go on a very low rate. When some of them go on a very low rate, it is very difficult for the others to give an increased rate. But obviously there is a difference between the facilities that's been provided. So everything is dependent on the facilities. Now a 5-star hotel cannot go under whatever their rate is. So that is the reason actually there was a fixed rate for this. So that is something also we are looking into because it has caused some problems. But there are a lot of hoteliers who are agreeing with us that there should be some sort of a minimum rate.
So is it going to be permanent or is it just a temporary measure?
Actually, the minister has implemented this because he wanted it to go on a long term. But because of the issues, I think that's happening at the moment and the complaints we are getting from the hotel industry and things, we will have to rethink on it.
Was there a program that you will give a loan of 1 million rupees to youth to establish a homestay?
There is a dialogue going on about that. So it depends on how much we can actually spend on these and how we can regulate it and how we can do things.
Now the oil share price index closed in green as a result of price gains in counters such as Central Finance Company, Lion Brewery and Brown's Investments, with turnover crossing 3.8 billion rupees. The benchmark all share price index was up 0.42% at 12,362.95 points. Meanwhile, the S&P Sri Lanka 20 index settled up 0.11% at 3,689.97 points. During the week, the The all-share price index and the S&P Sri Lanka 20 gained 0.8% and 11.2% respectively, whilst recording an average daily turnover of 2.72 billion rupees. Foreign participation in the market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers. Welcome back. Now in some breaking news, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation revised its fuel prices with effect from midnight today. Accordingly, a price of a litre of 92 octane was reduced by 3 rupees to 368 rupees. The price of a litre of 95 octane was reduced by 20 rupees to 420 rupees. A super diesel litre was reduced by 9 rupees to 377 rupees. An auto diesel litre was reduced by 30 rupees to 333 rupees respectively. Now, the United Nations Development Programme in Sri Lanka, together with the Colombo Stock Exchange, have embarked on a project to leverage capital markets in Sri Lanka for sustainable financing and to encourage private sector stewardship in sustainability as an important element of business strategy in Sri Lanka. With that, here's a look at more corporate news in brief.
The United Nations Development Programme in Sri Lanka, together with the Colombo Stock Exchange, signed a Memorandum of Understanding recently in a bid to leverage the country's capital markets for sustainable financing. This collaboration aims to actively support and engage the private sector, especially in integrating sustainable development goals in the local business systems and their practices. Meanwhile, with the aim of attracting export-oriented businesses to the Colombo Port City, Czech Port City Colombo Private Limited recently entered into a partnership with the Sri Lanka Export Development Board. This partnership will allow Port City Colombo and the Export Development Board to collaborate in promoting the Colombo Port City Special Economic Zone as an attractive commercial destination for export-oriented businesses. Also in corporate news, a roadshow was organized by Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau in Turkey in collaboration with the Sri Lankan Mission in Turkey and Sri Lanka Airlines, with the aim of raising the profile of Sri Lanka tourism among stakeholders in Turkey's travel community. Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau says a comprehensive overview of Sri Lanka's potential as a vacation destination were given to the Turkish travel trade and media community during the roadshow.
And that's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.